Hi, I'm Mike Sibley, leader of the James Moore manufacturing team. On this episode of More on Manufacturing, we're joined by Andrea Dallan, CEO of Dallan S.p.A. Dallan designs, manufactures, and installs equipment such as punching machines, roll formers, laser cutting, and packaging machines for the processing of thin metal sheet. Andrea is the author of The Revolution of Efficiency and Think Thin and is a host of the Manufacturing Efficiency podcast. Andrea also works with other manufacturers, analyzing production processes and helping these companies be more efficient and profitable. So welcome, Andrea. I appreciate you coming on to the show today and giving us all your insights.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you, Mike.
Thank you. Well, so let's just start. I know we were talking beforehand. You got a really, I think, kind of neat story. You started as, quote, an inventor, so to speak, at 6 years old. But maybe tell us a little bit about your company, how you became the CEO of Dallan, and then all of a sudden started writing books and coaching companies to be more productive.
Well, it's been a long process. Actually, my father established the company in 1978 when I was just 3 years old, and he always says that the company is his third daughter, and I can guarantee you that he has spent quite a lot more time with the company rather than with me and my sister. But anyway, nevertheless, my father started as a designer. He's also an engineer. And as I was a kid, I used to join him when he was drafting the first machines, the first roll forming equipment. And so I admired my father, as kids normally do. And well, I started started to try to design something as I was very, very young. In one of my book, I put the episode when I drafted one machine for him as I was just 6 years old. But actually, so that was one attempt to try to impress him. Well, in any case, living with him and as the company was growing, I chose my studies also in the engineering field, and then I started to join him in international exhibitions and so little by little I got into sales and also but I worked in all different departments of the company, so from the assembly to the designing department and so on. So at the end, when I was 25, I finished the university and I joined the company in the role of in a role of sales for one specific area, that were punching machines and laser cutting machines. So that was the department I worked to develop. So, but everything went very, very. It was very fluid. So, and in 2013, I became CEO of Dallan, and it was a moment when we did a huge reorganization of our company, because over time my father had established 6 different companies. They were all working as departments, and we did merge all the companies into Dallan S.p.A. And right now, so we have 170 between engineers, employees, technicians, and specialists that work together with me. And I'm actually very lucky to work with such a great team of professionals.
Well, that's great. So your company, I know you've written books on efficiency, you've written books on and blogs on productivity, raw material costs. What made your switch? What turned the light bulb on, so to speak, that made you start thinking about, hey, we need to look at our own production processes, our own sustainability. And then all of a sudden you're working with other companies. So what drew that to, what made you get to that point?
Well, the focus on efficiency has always been in focus for our in our processes, and also in the processes that we help our customers to optimize. So over time, working in sales, I have got not only the impression, but it was something very consistent that all our companies, when they are contacting us, they were looking into ways to make their production more efficient. More efficient means to produce using less raw materials, less energy, less labor, increasing the flexibility. So it has a lot to do with lean production, so looking into waste and trying to minimize it. But of course, my experience has been focused a lot into sheet metal processing, so which is what we help our customers do. In 2019 or so, right before the pandemic, I had written a lot of articles for technical reviews here in Italy and also in England regarding the justification of for capital investment and so on. And I decided to gather all this information in the form of a book, because it was important to have all this information about efficiency, how can I say, written down as something that could be easily read and understood by our customers also. And because of that, I didn't want to make it a very hard reading. So I looked and I asked our customers to intervene with some reviews, some case studies, some funny stories about how we introduced the first machines. And that has really been what made the book really readable and understandable, because one thing is going through formulas, and one other thing is understanding from the voice of the end user how they ended up increasing efficiency through a certain process, through a certain reorganization, through a certain through a certain coaching that we did for these companies as well.
That's great. It's neat to hear those kind of stories, because that's what gets that's what gets other companies so intrigued by us, hearing, hey, this company was able to achieve this level of efficiency or production or this level of success, and say, wow, there's got to be really something to this. And I know I've worked with another number of companies that do that to varying degrees of success. Sometimes it's you can see where management and ownership is really behind a movement to get something and what impact that really has, versus where they're kind of dipping their toes, so to speak, and not really behind it. And then they end up not being as successful as they would want to be because they're not really putting the energies to it. So I think, sharing that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
So, go ahead.
No, well, the idea was exactly this. When we look at our past experience, if we can have some real life examples where one company can read of a similar company reaching a certain degree of material saving or automatization, that really is priceless. And I mean, what my customers did for me was really a gift, and it is a gift for all companies in the field of thin sheet metal manufacturing. Sure.
And I imagine a lot of the concepts cross over any type of manufacturer. In all reality, lean crosses over.
Absolutely.
I know you listen to books about the Toyota production system, right?
Yeah.
Vehicle manufacturer that has crossed over everything, even in professional services. We've used lean internally to improve our service processes, because it makes a lot of sense to reduce waste. At the end of the day, right? You're reducing waste, and that's the goal.
So yes, we have to reduce the waste in our processes, but also we have to optimize our information flow. And there are really a lot of examples where we can increase. Well, I divided efficiency into these four main aspects. So sustainability, which is when we end up making the same amount of product using less raw material and less energy. Then we have automatization, when we manage to when we can reduce the amount of labor that is required to finish one product. productivity, which means using less time to make the same amount of product, and flexibility that has to do with the just-in-time production and so on. And these four aspects are not only what you find in the sheet metal manufacturing, but also in a lot of other businesses. So it's very transversal and applicable to a lot of different fields, Mike.
Sure. So let's talk about, one of those, you talk about sustainability, and, sometimes sustainability can come with this idea that there's a lot of cost involved with trying to have a sustainable manufacturing, trying to get to a point where you are saving energy or trying to save material costs. So can a sustainable production process ultimately be very profitable for a company?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Not in all cases, but there are a few cases, like in laser cutting for sheet metal, or in the production of metal profiles, direct with these roll forming systems, where we actually can introduce savings for our customers, for example, up to 20% of the raw material. So if to manufacture the same amount of product, I use 20% less material, I get two great results. First of all, my production becomes more sustainable because I have to start from less raw material that doesn't have to be produced in the first place. But the second thing is that since I don't have to buy it, it makes our production a lot more profitable as well. And when we go down to the calculations of how much cash flow is generated by these products, we are speaking of hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, if not millions in some cases. So today, when the cost of raw material is increasing so much, having a 20% saving in the raw material usage can represent a huge asset for the companies that start to invest in this direction. And apart from this, then we have the energy savings. So there are these newest production systems that have all digital drives that can save up to 40%, 50%, up to 70% of the energy. And that also becomes a huge asset today. Introducing automation again. So we are reducing the amount of labor, but today this is also making our production more robust, because so in this period when we have faced the pandemic, we know that in our company in this beginning of the year we have now 10% of the people that are at home because of this COVID quarantine and so on. I don't know how it is in the US now, but in Italy it is a little bit crazy. So how to get to organize the production. And so having a higher degree of automation helps companies stay productive and profitable even during a difficult time such as this one of the pandemic. This has less to do with sustainability, but all aspects are at the end of the day interconnected. If there is also one other aspect that we are seeing mostly in Europe and in the US, where a lot of productions that used to be outsourced to China or to other countries with a lower labor cost are now being brought back into the country because of the cost of the transport, and because transport is also one part of not only of the cost of the product, but also of the aspects that impact sustainability. Because so if I have to transport goods from China, from other countries into Europe or into the US, so these are costs not only that could be spared if I can bring back the production into the country. So sustainability is really something that requires for sure an analysis, because it's not something that you can have the turnkey solution for everything. But when you really analyze the processes and you analyze where the real costs are, especially in this period where energy cost and raw material costs are rising, that can introduce huge savings and therefore huge profits for the companies that invest in this direction.
Yeah, I think you bring up some really good points there. First hitting on the labor side of things, we're struggling. Our manufacturers here are struggling. In fact, a lot of our industries are struggling with labor, trying to find people who are willing and able, and also will stay. I mean, there's turnover, that people will come in, they'll work for a few weeks, and then next thing you know, they're gone. They might be finding the next job down the road that pays $1 or $2 an hour, and manufacturers are all trying to wait. There's this wage war sort of going on to try to draw the labor back to their company, and it's getting to the point where it's holding back production. In a lot of cases, we heard, and we still see supply chain issues. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are supply chain issues, but when you get the supplies in, when you get the materials in, it's difficult to get them out the door. The backlog is growing, which backlog is always a nice thing to have. There's that comfort level in having, orders. But when you start seeing that backlog go from, double and triple the amount of time that it should be taking on the lead times, that becomes problematic for everybody. Are you experiencing some of that same stuff in terms of the supply chain and then the labor? I guess you've alluded to the labor.
Yeah, well, we are in production as well. So we are producing machines. We are not producing the end products such as our customers, but we are constantly looking for people who want to get on board, learn the job of assembling, designing, and servicing these big production lines that we are delivering to our customers. It's a constant effort that we have. Especially, there is a lot of stress on the HR departments right now. Not only finding the people, but having them trained, retaining them. Retention is one of the huge aspects. Right. And if we could automate a part of our processes, believe me, we would have done it already. The fact is that our job is to help other companies automate their processes. So right now we have we are facing a huge demand. In fact, so for some type of machines, we are close to 2 years deliveries. But at the same time, we are looking for people to improve our capacity as well, Mike. So I think there is a lot that we can do on the training side to improve the production internally. In fact, we have constantly, and we have an internal academy to keep people always up to date and to make sure that we can deliver the best possible service to our customers. But training is what is also more and more required from our customers. They have a nice new machine. The operator leaves to go to another company, and they need someone to get trained quickly again. So this has sped up a lot the request of automation from our customers, and I think the trend is increasing. This is our view.
So do you see it? So you really see automation as kind of the future of? I mean, that's where it seems. I know manufacturers are constantly looking at it saying, okay, we're having difficulty with labor here, or this manual process is very redundant. How do we automate this? How do we make it better? So it sounds like you really see automation, like many, as being something that you got to analyze. Does the investment make sense? And then go find that machine or a company that has the ability to create the machine that you need to automate.
That's right. I think today if one company can find a reliable partner to develop their automation to act not only as a supplier but as a consultant, in order to help them analyze their processes, how much more efficient they can become. I think it can be a huge asset. For example, in the US, for example, we have had a huge increase in the demand for automation. Right now, we are producing systems that go from the coil of material to the finished product packed in carton boxes, palletized and ready for the delivery. This type of systems, of course, you have one system of this kind does the same job as 8 machines of the older style that were a little bit slower, that they required a lot of people doing the packaging and so on. Of course, so you go from 8 people to 2 people that you need to manage one machine of this kind. At the same time, you need to have people with a certain level of skill. So it's not something that you can delegate to. So you have to be willing as a company not only to invest in the automation in the machine, but also to invest in the right level of skill, in the right people to keep the production going.
So Andrea, so I guess, the last thing as we kind of come to conclusion here on our chat, which I've really enjoyed, is I know you guys are in the U.S. market. You have office space here. You're working in the U.S. What brought you to the U.S. and what do you think of the U.S. markets at this point?
So the U.S. market is a market where we started working in the 90s. So we have customers that have consistently purchased the systems from us and machines. But over time, we have seen that the request for automation was increasing a lot. And being present in the US market does not just require a sales office, but it requires also a very good service here in the country. So our investment as a company was to start our subsidiary here in Ohio. So since the end of 2020, we also have a facility here, and so from this facility we have our technicians that can support our customers directly here in the States. And that's an essential aspect because, as we were speaking before, so our customers do not just need the system, they need training, they need service, and they need to be able to keep these machines up and running. And the more automation you have, the more you need a very reliable partner to work with and to develop to support your production.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for being on with us today. And, I've enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate your insights. I always think that getting insights from manufacturers as to what they're doing, how they're doing things, it just kind of continues that conversation. So every little bit and piece that somebody can pull, it just helps their own company perform better, I think. And those ideas and sharing those ideas are so important.
Absolutely, and I hope all this information was of help to your listeners, and I really enjoyed being here with you, Mike.
Great. Well, and for our listeners, thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoy the conversation. Of course, you can search for Dallan S.p.A. and you can see the books that Andrea has written and the articles. I think there's some great insights in there. And I know a lot of the listeners that I work with, they are always looking for other ideas and reading, and that intellectual piece of trying to continue to make their companies better. So thanks to our listeners, and looking forward to another episode in the next month.
To learn more about James Moore & Company's manufacturing services, go to jmco.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our More on Manufacturing series to receive updates when new videos and podcasts are released. If you'd like to be a guest, or if there's a topic you'd like to see covered on a future episode, contact us on our website. You can also follow us on social media for more news as the landscape on manufacturing continues to rapidly evolve.